Talk.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Good evening, everybody. It's BenInBeta here, and we have a special episode tonight with a couple of special guests. One good friend of mine, Brian.
It's funny. On my screen, you're pointing the wrong direction.
That way.
There you go. There you go. That's me. That's where I'm at.
And another
Hey, everybody.
recent addition of friends of mine, Tim from Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk.
Howdy, guys.
Great to have you on. I appreciate you doing this with us. It's definitely new for us. We're just starting the streaming stuff. I've been doing lots of edited videos, but this streaming thing's fun too, and it's great to have you on. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
Yeah, sure. You guys want to talk about trucks? And I was like, "Oh, cool. I can do that." No big deal.
Yeah, perfect.
So, you
And
know,
I think people. I mean, I think people would have the same kind of. I don't want to call it buyer's remorse because you're not a buyer yet, but rethinking through the purchase, rethinking through what you're doing, and like you get close to that moment of time where it's coming in. Now you're like, "Uh-oh, what to do?"
Exactly. We've talked about this in the past. I've posted on your forum. The forums are great, by the way. If you haven't joined those, you should go in there and join them immediately and start posting and just interacting. Everybody on there is amazing. So it's been great. And I've had a chance to post a bunch of different things about my journey. And the funny part is, like, my last truck was 2002, I think, is basically 2003. We traded it in at that point. So it's been 20 years since I've owned a pickup truck. And we're trying to get it
on you. Test.
I know. I missed it. But we're also trying, and I think you've talked about this before too. We're trying to get like the unicorn truck, because we're trying to have one vehicle in our household that can be a daily driver, but we also want to build it out for an overlanding vehicle. And it's hard. It's hard to get something that meets all those needs and is going to work. And I know you've talked about that in the past too, with people always making comments about it should have this and it doesn't have this from this car and whatever, right?
Yeah. They want the fuel economy of a diesel, pulling like a diesel, the price of a mid-sized truck, and they want the room of a full-size truck. And it's like it doesn't work. So I think let's step back before we get too involved in this. So you were going to buy a 2024 Toyota Tacoma, which is how I met you on the forums and such. And so you ordered it from a dealer in Colorado Springs. Has no markup because you were smart about that. You bought new vehicles in the past. You're doing Overlanding with a very capable Hyundai. Was it
Tucson?
Tucson, yeah, very capable Hyundai Tucson, which is exactly what the marketing team was thinking when they developed that vehicle. They're going to do overlanding with it.
100%.
It
Yep. So that's what we've been doing so far. And the way that happened was we bought that in December of 2022, and we traded in a Tesla for that. And I've got some videos, and we've had some conversation about that too. But we did that because we're going back and forth between California and Colorado several times a year, and the Tesla was just not the right vehicle for that. And we did want to do some car camping, and again, a Tesla Model 3 wasn't the right car for that.
No.
Yeah, weird, huh?
I'm shocked.
Even with the frunk, that wasn't enough.
Even with the frunk. I mean, maybe Misty could have slept in there. I don't know. Yeah, the dog.
Right.
But yeah. So then, literally, we bought it, and a month later, I started seeing overlanding videos, and it was like, huh, that's really interesting. I think I bought the wrong vehicle for this, but we're going to give it a try. And my wife was like, you need to go out and try any of this stuff before we go and buy any more vehicles. And so we did, and we very much like it. So now we're heading down that path.
Yes. So talk to us about the Tacoma you have spec'd out.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good. So basically it's a TRD off-road. And the journey there was basically, and actually I'll show you. Let me present my screen here. And
you don't have a chart, do you?
I do.
I can't imagine you have a chart.
You love my charts. Yeah.
Oh my God. So hold on. Are we in the comments? Are we on YouTube?
And you shall receive.
Yeah, just look at this. I mean, he shared the screen on this one time, and I was like, "What? like this.
Yeah.
So you have the vehicles on the left. You have photos of the vehicles to remind you of the vehicle because you have to have these photos, and then you have charts of what each one has at the price point you're looking at, and fuel economy numbers. And I think you probably could sell this. I think people would actually buy this.
Yeah, I mean it's a nifty tool. Code is pretty great, and there's definitely like people want to try it. There's a link in the description for sure if you want to try this. It's a great tool for these types of things. But I've driven everything on here except for the 2024 Ford Ranger, which you're going to get to drive the week after next, or right?
Mhm.
So that's cool. So I went through and drove all these things, and also just kind of because we started this before some of the vehicles were out. And the first one I drove was the Nissan Frontier, and it was I was like pretty impressed with that vehicle. And if anybody's looking for something with a naturally aspirated engine, that's a pretty good mid-sized truck to get. That's you can't argue too much with it. But it did have a few things that I on it that I didn't like, and so I just kept going through everything. I drove it all, and in the end, we really wanted the Trail Hunter. And I know you were thinking you might still get that. And when the pricing came out, we were really hoping the Trail Hunter was going to be about $57,000. It's probably going to be about better than that.
No.
So,
What did it end up being?
like 65. It's probably that's something.
It's probably the pricing hasn't come out for the hybrid yet, but that's everybody's guess. And I got to give a shout out to Ken Nix. He's in the comments. He's a big supporter of the channel. I'll give him a shout out. So yeah, 65.
Whatever comments you want to, by the way. Go for it. Yeah.
I think the Trail Hunter is easily 65, especially taxes, title, license, that kind of stuff when you're done with it. So you did this entire chart. You drove them all as best you could, and the Taco is the way to go for you and your wife. So and I know you already discussed a rooftop tent, and you already bought accessories and things on your list. So you have a garage full of stuff. You're waiting for the truck.
Basically, yeah. So we've got everything already. We bought a lot of the stuff from the Tucson, and then we just purchased a rooftop tent that's ready to go on a vehicle whenever it arrives. And it's already off road. Yeah.
Right. Until you got cold feet.
Until I got
cold feet. Leaving the truck at the altar, walking away, cold feet.
Yes. So basically, what happened was every single Tacoma right now is on I guess it's not a stop sale. It's just literally not being delivered to dealers with a QC hold. So, and nobody knows what it's for or how long it's going to last. And once that started happening, I started getting a little bit worried about like, why is this happening? What's going on with this? And that started making me think about like, well, what else is there out there? What should I be thinking about? And in the end, I started thinking like, what if there are other vehicles like a Bronco or something that's already built out? Because one of the issues with the Tacoma is the payload's only about 1,200 pounds, and we're going to be really close to max on that once we put everything on that, and that's without adding any rock rails or any skid plates, any modifications to suspension or anything like that. So I was a little bit concerned about that. So it made me start thinking like, what else is out there? Is this the right truck for me? And I ended up going out and test driving a Bronco, and that was not for me, 100%. But so then I came back to the Tacoma, and I'm like, all right, this is good. But there's been a lot of great conversation also in the forums, just trying to talk through all of this stuff, right? And it's like trying to find the right vehicle for you, and that is always, I think, the most difficult thing because there's so much brand loyalty and lots of different people who. Because the Chevys have more horsepower, they're better. And it's like, well, are they? For you, they might be, but for me, they're not. And so I ended up back at the Tacoma until midweek this week when something else happened. And that was interesting. And I don't maybe play just like a second or two of this video, just again, shouting out the team at TFL. And let's see if this goes back to stage. There we go. They're doing a lot of great content with this Tacoma, and they had this happen to them where they were taking it up ironclads, and something broke in the front, and that was the end of that. It just snapped, and that was basically
it was an audible snap too.
Yeah. Yep.
Either a snap or a pop. It was loud.
Yeah.
It's impressive. The timing of getting on that camera was so cool, though. I was so impressed they got on the camera because usually that stuff happens and the camera's never rolling. Like that's just
I mean,
they're going to get a ton of views out of that.
you look at the truck, and when that snap or that pop happened, it was almost like the truck itself just kind of deflated in the front, like, just
Well, I think that was
like it was disappointed in itself.
that was their hopes and dreams. Just went pop.
Right.
Yep. For TFL, I think it was more like money bags. So it was like, everybody's going to watch this. But so that happened. And now obviously the internet's on fire about, whether they were driving it properly, all kinds of different things. And we had a discussion previous to this in the forums about the tires. And so you kind of indicated tires probably didn't play a big factor here because it was so much ice. And I would agree with that. Although, you did see the Colorado did make it up, and it does have a little bit better tires on it than I think from factory than what Toyota put on it. And so we talked about whether or not we should put tires on it, that kind of stuff. But this video also made me a little bit worried after I kind of came back to the Tacoma again. And that made me think, well, again, is there anything else I should be looking at? And actually, I went out today and drove a Tundra just to kind of check that off my list. And it just ended up being too big for what I think we really want to do in our trails and things. And so I'm definitely going to stick with the Tacoma, but I've been waffling back and forth quite a bit this week because I have no idea how long it's going to take. I don't really know what they're fixing on it. There could be a number. If you go into Tacoma forums, there's a lot of different issues that are coming up. But again, if you do the numbers on them, it's a very, very tiny percentage. Even of the ones that have been delivered, it's like 0.03% or something like that of Tacomas that are actually having problems that are reported in forums. So I'm sure it'll be fine, and it's under warranty. So as long as I can get back from something like this, and I didn't die out in the wilderness, I'll be fine. I guess that's basically where I came back to, I think.
So, do you have difficulty choosing dinner with your wife? I mean, the analytical stuff you go through, this stuff. Holy cow! Like I'm really impressed. But I could see where definitely analysis paralysis, right? You read too much, and then the thing is, like, anytime you do this, you can read so much into everything that goes on that you just don't make a decision. I mean, because you're just, oh my gosh, all this stuff's happening. What am I going to do? And then you're trying to pick the right truck. I can show you some stuff that would make you concerns. I know not everybody's been a fan of the channel for as long as, well, I've been doing it, but that's obviously. But there was an issue, like, was it last year or year before? Gladiator snapped the frame, and that was off-roading because if in the frame of the mid-size truck, and full-size trucks too, behind the cab there's a notch built into the frame. The idea there is your rear-ended, it actually drops the bed below the cabin, not through the cabin. And the Utes over in Australia, actually they have a bolt-on kit with metal brackets that takes away that notch. So that way, if you're hauling gear off-road, it doesn't bend in. You need it, but what ultimately happens with mid-size trucks a lot is that you trying to make a mid-size truck do the same job as a full-size truck would as far as payload and that kind of stuff. And then you add more stuff, and it's like, holy cow, what's going on? Your wife seems like she has a viewpoint on your mind.
She has chimed in.
She has chimed in.
Yep.
Yes. Let's go ahead and show this here. He changes his mind all the time.
No, I can't imagine.
It's true. And it's usually after I purchase something. So I'll buy it and be like, oh, that was not the right decision. I should have went a different direction. But there are a lot of things that I do like that I keep too. So
I'm actually picturing you like researching restaurants like a month before you actually go out to the place, so you know exactly where you're going.
So for something like that, no way, man. Like, it's only a couple bucks. I don't care. This thing is $55,000. It's a much different decison. Like,
Yeah.
and
I checked in 4 different counties. This is the best barbecue place
the
by
best
far.
Yes.
All right, so let's go back to the thought process here. So trail size has you concerned, so you have to stay mid-size.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you have a smaller truck, even though you live in Colorado where it's wide open. But I understand Brian's in Wisconsin. I know you drive back and forth. You want to do off-roading in Wisconsin, which is tighter trails. So mid-size we're going to be. And then you want more off-road because you plan on doing more overlanding stuff with this thing, which is totally fine. And so it seems like you have it narrowed down to probably the best options for you.
Yeah.
But the payload is always going to be a concern because, the mids. And I heard your live stream that night. I was actually making dinner when I was listening to it. No, the answer to your question is you cannot increase payload. Like, it's the frame. So as you add more weight to it, you can't like reinforce the frame to handle more weight, no matter what gimmicky things do. So payload's not going to be increased. I did do an interview with a guy who had a Colorado who took out the rear seat, and he figured out that weight. He actually like weighed the seat and did that, added that to his payload. I mean, did all stuff, and then he snapped the frame. So it's like no matter what you think you can do, there is a limit there. One thing you could think about that I would think about personally myself, rooftop tents are great, except for when you're carrying a lot of weight in the truck. I love the trailers. You get a little trailer with a little swivel hitch to it. That seems like because now you're towing, not hauling, and that's taking weight off the frame when you do that. So that'd be something to think about as well if you keep doing it. And also for me, I got a little more gray in my beard than I think you do. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, nature calls, and I am not sticking my thing to the rooftop tent and trying to aim right, and it's not gonna happen.
Well, hopefully it's going to work out for us, but we'll see. But yes, a trailer is an option, I think, to down the road. We're within the payload. I think we can definitely get that without too much of a problem. And 1,200 pounds is better than, like, I looked at a Forerunner, 800 pounds. Like, that was not going to work for us. I know, Brian, you're
I'm at 880
Jeep
for
is
my
800.
Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
for us,
and I
that
think
wasn't going to work. But
and I gotta say, I think it's great that you and Brian are looking at payload, because the old school guys were like, let's see here, yeah, I'll haul it, no problem, whatever. And I remember when I first started doing this job, I started talking about payload, and even like loyal truck customers for like 30 years had no idea what I was talking about. Like, they never had checked the sticker on the door, and so it's smart for you to do that, because if you overload your truck, yes, you will have warranty claims that will be denied, and you're talking tens of thousands of dollars for a simple mistake of adding, too much stuff in your truck.
yeah.
And this is where Ben's charting skills came into play, big time, because like I had never considered that. And one of the things we talked about, when it came to me buying my Jeep, this was something that I've always wanted a Jeep. I finally got the Jeep, so I have a 2018 Jeep Wrangler. It's a Sahara Moab edition. I love it, but it wasn't until after I had the Jeep that I actually found out about overlanding. So like, the fact of me putting too much weight, maxing out the payload was never even a consideration when I bought the vehicle. So like, all of a sudden he's like, hey, what's the payload on that thing? And so we've been charting out everything. Okay, we're starting to buy equipment now. I just picked up a couple of camping chairs and a couple other things. I'm just kind of like plugging it all into his chart here, making it all make sense and making sure that I stay under my 880, which honestly, most of the time I'm probably just going to be me going out in the Jeep. Maybe one of my kids will come with me, but they're quite smaller than I am, quite a bit smaller than I am. So that shouldn't be too much of a concern.
Yeah, overlanding in a mid-sized truck is great for two people. Once you get beyond that, there's a reason why if you go to like Overland Expos and things, it's always like this Ford F550, right? I mean, because it's like you're like, I'm gonna haul this beast around. It's moving. It's a mobile hotel room. Like, wait a minute, and I've overlanded a lot. We called it sleep in my truck. I just kind of reclined the seat, took a nap, and whatever, woke up in the morning. I mean, it's not like it's. So, but this is a whole thing. I mean, I get it. It's a whole thing. So you had talked a lot. We talked about this about tires, and they're going to ask me about tires. Everybody's got opinions on tires, and frankly, I've driven all sorts of trucks, different tires, and I can't tell you different tires because it's except KO2s, and then now there's KO3s, and there's tire stuff can go crazy. And I've gotten free tires, and I've put tires in different vehicles. But what I was telling you was looking at the TFL video, something mechanical broke, right? So I don't think the tire. I mean, yes, tires could have been better, but it's an icy cliff. Like, here's the thought: just don't drive over it in the wintertime. And I don't know. I'm sure people that are winter camping going, it's icy and it could slide off and damage my truck. Maybe I'll go around, pick a different line. I mean, that's something. But I had said, people talk to me all the time like stock tires are terrible. You can't have any stock tires. Stock tires. I don't think I think there's a big lack of understanding how tires get on certain vehicles. The automakers spend months evaluating different tires, and Michelin comes in, and Firestone comes in, and Bridgestone comes in, whatever, same company, and they will pitch different tires. And they'll go on test track. I have a friend that worked at Toyota's engineering facility in Arizona, and a daily job was to take out one tire in a certain vehicle, go do donuts for 4 hours, come back, have lunch, swap tires out, go do donuts for 4 hours, and come back and see which one did better, and then measuring and treading up. So, like, the more I do this job, the more I tell you two things. One, I don't like modifying stuff because the engineers spend a lot of time doing it, and I have modified some things, and it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But it's like they spend a lot of time doing that. And number two, like, don't toss your stock tires out immediately. Like, yes, if you want to go overlanding, yes, there's probably a more stock tire, better aftermarket tire for that for the specific purpose. But if you were doing those kind of trails in the Hyundai Tucson, pretty sure Tacoma going to be able to do it with the same tires. But if you get a situation where the tires aren't holding up for you, then yeah, I think it's time to switch tires. But I've had guys email me constantly. I'm going to buy this $75,000 truck. What wheels and tires should I get? I'm like, wait, you're putting out $75,000. You want to spend $2,000 immediately for new wheels and tires. Like not even driving it off the lot. They want to do it before it leaves the lot. And I'm like, what? Like, I wish I had your money.
True. I think. Go ahead,
sorry,
Brian.
go ahead. Well, I was just going to ask, like, as far as people that want, are looking to, potentially upgrade their tires or just get different tires for whatever reasoning they have, would you actually recommend, like, just changing out the tires altogether, or actually getting a whole new set if they're going to be doing like the daily driving and then doing the overlanding and stuff like that?
I think if you have the money, a whole new set makes a lot of sense, right? So daily driving, especially like an off-road tire, over time, off-road tires tend to have a little whine to them, and you're going to feel a little bit rougher ride, or you're going to feel like fuel economy is going to drop a little bit, right? So if those factors don't bother you and you want more of a rougher riding truck, then that's the way to go. It just comes on your needs. I mean, I have a set in my yard I need to sell actually, and I have a set of snow tires, my 62. I put on occasionally. I mean, it just depends like what I'm doing with that truck, but swapping tires isn't that big of a deal. I mean, and they make this. My friend owns a wheel shop in town. I talk to him all the time. They made this cool adapter that actually goes into your air gun, and actually you can set torque on it. And once it stops popping, you're at torque. So it's really cool. Yeah, really cool little device you can get and just swap them out. So I like the idea of having two sets if you have the garage space and you have the funding for it. I mean, especially as well, because if you're off-roading, your wheels may get scarred up, may get cut, maybe whatever could get dinged up quite a bit. And maybe you're one of those people like Ben who maybe not like that look and maybe want to be crystal clean again. So you may want to swap them out so your truck looks pretty.
Yeah,
I don't care so much about that. I mean, I will take care of it, but I mean, it's going to get scratched up pretty fast. And the only other thing I would add is the trails I've been on with Tucson are trails that, any vehicle can get to. Maybe I pushed it a little bit further than some, but Brian and I were out in October on a trail that I would have guessed it took us a little bit of effort to get in. When we came back out, there was a Jetta parked in one of the campsites, and I was like, okay, well, there you go. But our hope would be to get a little bit further away from where just a normal car could get. And so that was, I think, part of the reason of like wanting to switch the tires out, just to make sure. The ones that were on the 23s, I like those. If that was the same tire, I probably wouldn't switch them out. I thought those were really good tires. These just they seem to be more of a road tire. I think it seems like they're trying to get miles per gallon out of those tires, especially because they decreased the size of the fuel tank 3 gallons, which is not awesome either. So
right, yeah.
So on the topic of tires, then Ben, as far as the spare tire goes, are you considering buying like an actual full size regular spare tire?
A real tire?
A real tire? Yes. Not a cardboard cutout tire.
Yeah, potentially. And Tim put out a video about this today. Yeah, that even the off-road model has so it comes with 265/70 R17s on all 4 corners, but the spare is a 245/65 17 or something like that.
Yeah, that's I've been in the shop over a decade, and that was the first time I actually heard that, and it was shocking. So if you guys don't know the story, different Toyota Tacoma trims have different size spare tires. So basically, the rule of thumb is the more you spend, the more you get a real spare tire. Which do you always need a spare? No, but when you need one, you need one, right? I mean, it's not. And so then they created the question. And I can't wait to dive more into this more details with different engineers and stuff. What is a full size spare? So is it just outer diameter? Because the outer diameter of some of those tires could be just fine, right? But is that really a full size spare, or is it just kind of a wannabe spare, not a real? I mean, I don't know. It is interesting.
And I think that these little nickel and dime things that happen with when you're paying. So the truck TFL has, it's like 46, I think, or 43 or something like that, right? The one we're looking at, because we're looking at the premium package to get cameras and all that kind of stuff, all the convenience features, is 54 essentially.
Mhm.
And that, like, when you were looking at pricing yours out, it was like $8,800 for that premium package, and you're looking at the package going, "Am I really getting $8,800 worth of stuff here?" I
I
don't
got
know.
mud guards. Mud
Yep.
guards. I'm telling you, mud
Me
guards.
too.
Woohoo! The joke is, if you look at Toyota's pricing on a Tacoma, the build and price tool, they have like 17 packages, and each package goes up with mud guards by $45.
That's true.
I'm like, fantastic.
So they're heavy duty.
Yeah. Oh, good. Massive million-mile reliability on these mud guards. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, I'm definitely going to be sticking with the Tacoma, and we're going to be documenting everything we do. Brian and I are going to take a big trip this summer. Excited to do that and build it out, but I have no idea when I'm going to get
the day, the time, the moment he said we have to go to Tacoma. I got it written down right here. See,
the decision's been made. There's no
hold me
backing
to
out now.
I was supposed to pick it up this next week, so it was supposed to be it's supposed to be available the 3rd through the 8th originally, but with the QC hold, we don't know when that'll happen. But I think I'm going to be really happy. When I drove the SR5, I was really happy with it. There's a comment in here I did want to throw up because it's a shout out to your forums. I can find it. Where is it? From Fight and Fire here.
Oh yeah,
we've gone back and forth several times about the Tacoma is going to be underpowered, and so I think that was hilarious. So I want to throw that one out there for sure. And
I will say that you drove it and I drove it. So problem my job is that I go to these launches and they're all brand new, and you drive it and you have 1 billion things to look at. So somebody said, well, what's the old dipstick look like? What the hell are you talking about? Like, I got 9,000 things to cover. That's not one of them, right? And I drove it and I thought it was fine, right? And I did a video. I compared that to Colorado, and I said, look, I think the average customer is going to have the same driving experience, be fine. I got blown up with that because the Colorado's got 100 more horsepower. Well, guess what? If you don't drive like Mario Andretti, it doesn't really matter. It won't, for the average person. I don't think you see any difference. I mean, but then the comments come out where it's like it's underpowered, and you gotta do the tune immediately. And I talked to my friends over at Texas Truck Channel, and Brian. I gave him a bunch of crap about it because he was like, if you know the video, so Brian they bought a Tacoma as well, and he's with his brother Craig, and they do the 0-60 test, and Brian's like, it's too slow. I need to get more tune on this. And Craig's like, you like the last generation? He goes, yeah, that was a great engine. And he goes, you're a second faster. I am not. I'm like, yeah. It's like, and the thing is, like, vehicles, like, and from your experience having a Tesla, vehicles have gotten so much quicker that you just don't think they're as quick because you're used to driving something fast already, right? If you take a guy who's been driving the same Tacoma for 40 years, put him a new one, he'll be shocked how much faster the new one is, right? But if you drive new, the expectations are different.
Yeah, 100%. And from the Tucson, right? I went Tesla Tucson. That was a big jump in terms of acceleration and power.
You mean a big drop?
A big drop, yes. Yeah.
I was going to say big jump,
in the negative, right? And the Tacoma was just so much better. And honestly, all the midsize trucks that I've driven, they're all, like you said, they're all kind of about the same. They're really good. I don't know if there's any of them that I wouldn't recommend somebody buy. From my driving experience, it's just really finding the right combination of all the stuff that you're looking for. And that can be hard because, like, the Trail Boss, it's kind of a well-priced truck, but then it's missing just a couple of things. And if you order it wrong, you get Andre's truck and you get no cruise control. So it's like, that's unfortunate, right? So it's just hard because the things are priced all over the place, and you get something that's a little bit better here and something that's a little bit less good here, and everything's a trade-off. So.
Yeah, everyone wants me to do comparison videos, like apples to apples comparisons, and like it's a nightmare. Like I kind of make it work the best I can, but there's always going to be that in the back of my mind, somebody going, well, that's not right. You can get this with that. Yes, 1,000. Yes, you can get all sorts of things, and then ultimately, you search for all this stuff, and then you drive to the dealership and go, oh, I want that one. And yeah, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna buy that. So all the thought process and everything goes away. So I was gonna ask this question because it just hit my mind. You've done electric in the past. Why not say Rivian?
Yeah, I mean, it's a consideration, and the used ones are coming down into that price range. So you met my wife in the comments. She's definitely got a price point of like, this is what we're going to spend, and it's still above that, I would say, but it is coming down. And that was the truck that I really wanted to get back when we were shopping electric, but it was too expensive then. But the biggest thing is for overlanding. I can't take. I would have to carry some sort of ridiculous battery setup if I ever wanted to be able to charge it on the go. I think, and I said this in your comments, in the comments on the forum. If the zombie apocalypse happened, I would take a Rivian and some chargers, and I would go out in the middle of nowhere, and I would, because gas would be gone, right? You're not getting gas anymore, so that's what I would do in that case. But just to go overlanding in general, like, I can't trust it because you lose so much mileage on those trails, and if there's no way to charge it and it's dead, all you can do is hope to go downhill and it'll recharge itself, but it's probably not likely. I mean, they did do it. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the motorcycle. Oh man, what was it?
Ian McGregor.
Yeah, where they took electric bikes all the way down from.
I saw.
And
they took it from the southern point
than that, and it made it. So I guess you can do it if you put chargers along the way at very specific spots. But
if you actually watch the show, though, there's a part around Peru, I think, where like they didn't really make it. Like, I think they actually hitched onto a truck and got pulled so that way they could regenerate some power. I think they even brought at one point they even brought I think they were electric Harley Davidsons, and they actually brought those inside of a hotel that they had found in the middle of nowhere, so that way it could stay warm. I mean, put blankets over it and everything, tuck it in.
I mean, yeah, I have a lot of EV advocate friends and journalists who care a lot about EVs. You can make them work, if you have unlimited time and funding and a whole buttload of patience. But I don't aspire to that. I don't want that at all. So I think the Tacoma makes sense. I'd be curious to see how fast you swap tires out, what tires you go with. I mean, that's always going to be something to play around with. But it's, again, you're spending 55,000, dropping another 12,000 or 1,200 before you even hit a trail, on top of all the other equipment you got to buy. That's why I said to you, like, maybe just air down, air compressor in the back a little bit makes more sense. Air down for a while, drive them for a while, put 50,000 miles on them, and then buy a new set of tires. It seems like that, unless you get to the point in the trail where you have to have something different. But looking at, like, do you plan on doing winter overlanding, or is it summertime stuff?
I will probably do winter too. Yeah.
Okay, because you're crazy. So summertime stuff.
I did the same thing yesterday.
Right. I'm like, I don't want to go out in the cold. I like being in my chair. I tell people all the time, I want my chair, recliner with a blanket, with a good glass of whiskey, watching Deadliest Catch guys freezing their butts off catching fish. I'm fine with it. But it looks miserable to them. That's fine. My fireplace going in front of me. Enjoy, guys. That's where I'm over that kind of stuff. So
I like to sit in front of a campfire to enjoy the campfire, not to survive.
Exactly. So I mean, if you go, I mean, I could see wintertime, because wintertime is tough, man. Wintertime on tires, ice, grip. I mean, it is just tough to make an all season, even all terrain tire meet those requirements, even with the 3 peaks or whatever they do these days with this stuff. I mean, so I would see, for me, I could see you doing a whole set of specific overlanding tires that had more grip in wintertime as well as summertime too. Because if you do plan on winter camping, I didn't know that before. I would think you probably would want to do something in that circumstance because of the challenges in the wintertime.
And even if we would do late fall and early spring for sure, just because there's no people, and that kind of what we're looking for when we go out. But we also do a lot of hiking, snowshoeing, that kind of stuff, and we want to get out on some trails, and I think that 3 peak rating will help with that. So I was looking at the AT4Ws is most likely the tire I would go with, because the KO3s aren't going to be available until like May or whatever, which I could drive the other ones for a while, I guess, first and see how they are, and then decide between those 2 tires as well. So but yeah, we definitely want to do some winter stuff.
So you're putting a lift on with 35s. Nice, good call.
No, definitely not. We're just going to be stock tire size, but either KO3 or AT4Ws. And and that'll be good enough. Like, I think that's all we really will need to do the things we want to do. Hopefully.
Well, yeah. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I gotta turn off my phone. My friend Dave Boyd, who's alternate terrain nation, sent me a thing, and now my phone's like, you need to create a 6-digit pin. You need to do a certain. No, I don't need 2-factor verification to see a damn image. I'm so sick of technology, but that's just me.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
we had a. Go ahead.
what color?
Celestial silver. So I actually went through several color iterations too. The bronze oxide is probably
No.
was, but I don't. Also, color isn't that big of a deal for me. I don't. A color is a color. White is probably my least preferred color. But I'm gonna end up with celestial silver. Bronze oxide I think is really good. I've seen the underground in person. That looks really good too. It doesn't really matter to me so much, but it's going to be the silver one, which I think probably will show scratches a little bit less or whatever too. So that's probably nice, but it doesn't really matter.
Says the man sitting in front of black and white photos with a white background.
Yeah,
color doesn't matter.
a little bit higher than that. We have.
There's a touch of color.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's got shades of color there. That nice.
Yep. We might change out all those photos to color photos to match the map, but yeah.
Careful.
So it's gonna be celestial silver. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. The brightest thing in his shot is a toss up between his name on the screen and his T-shirt.
That's true.
Oh, this is what makes live streams fun.
So we had some questions for you if you're willing to answer some of those.
No comment. I plead the fifth.
All right, fair enough. I was actually a little bit curious about. I don't know if you've ever talked about this too much. You said in a previous work life you worked at dealerships, and I'm guessing you were sales, but maybe you weren't. Is that true? And maybe I misheard that. But how did you get to where you are today?
I worked in retail sales. I worked at Best Buy, Walmart, Office Max, Sunglass Hut. I did a bunch of food service. So I know how sales work, and I've been around dealerships enough to know that aspect of it. I actually legit have a journalism degree. It's actually above the hats right there. How the damn thing works. So I have a journalism degree, and I graduated college in like 2007, right when the newspapers are going under. And so I was like, well, I'm not doing that. And so I started a business doing web design and graphic design, and it was not my passion. And I found a couple through crazy enough Craigslist, a Craigslist ad to run 2 Toyota sites. And I'm a Michigan guy, and my dad worked at GM for engineering and truck site for years. And we always had trucks. So it's funny, like I get a 7-day press week loan for a truck, SUV, car, whatever. And my dad would do that all the time. My dad was enough high in the engineering, and with GM, he'd get a free vehicle every week. So it's so funny how things have gone full circle. His last job at GM was ordering the camouflage for spy vehicles that I now try to decipher and make videos out of. So it's one of those crazy things in life. So I was running the Toyota, Tundra headquarters and Tacoma HQ, and writing a bunch of nonsense articles. Actually, I got to take it back. It was about 3-4 months ago. I had to Google something on myself, and I came across one of my articles I wrote back then. I read it. It was like 2010, 2011, whatever. And I'm reading this article going, man, this guy's got a future in this business. Huh. So I basically took that. I took that foothold, and I made it into a career. I paid to go to my own auto shows. I did all the auto shows in New York, LA, Chicago, Detroit. At the time, Detroit was massive, and I networked and shook hands and kissed babies and all kind of stuff. And then I was doing a lot of freelance writing, and the freelance writing was fine and paid the bills. I was doing web design and freelance writing, and it was kind of both things. I really want to do more automotive. I liked what I was doing. I didn't like what I was doing web design. I just wasn't very good at it. It's not, coding and that kind of stuff. It's just not my skill set. And my dad, actually, him and I were riding back from his place in Michigan. I'd actually sold one of my trucks to a chief engineer with Toyota. We're driving back across like Nebraska, maybe even Iowa or someplace. And I said, Dad, I said, I need to create a website for my own to store my freelance stuff, because I'd always tell family I wrote the story, whatever, and they never could find it, right? Because it's always on 4 or 5, this website and that website, whatever. And it's just hard to track stuff down. So I was creating, I wanted to create my own site. And at the time, Motor Trend was my big client, and they did not have a podcast before the Truck Show podcast was created for Truck Trend and all kind of stuff. Well, it was Truck Trend back then, and I wrote for Four Wheeler and wrote for the magazines like that. And so I was like, I'm gonna create my own outlet, and I was gonna do a podcast, and so that's where the talk came in, right? So I was like, okay, it's gotta have talk in it. So all right, this is how my brain works. And I done SEO for so many years, search engine optimization. SEO. If you don't have the keywords, you don't get picked up,
Yep.
right? So I was like, all right. So I said to my dad, I said, all right, we gotta call it Talk for Podcasts. I want to cover trucks and SUVs, so let's talk truck. So I literally remember sitting with my laptop, and I had whatever Wi-Fi queued in my phone, whatever, and I had iTunes pulled up, the old iTunes app before they get rid of it, and I was typing in different things to see what names are out there, and Truck Talk was all trucker talk, like semi trucks, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna, I don't, that's gonna be confusing as hell, whatever. I'm not gonna do that. So then I was like, well, I'll call it pickup talk, whatever. And I typed in pickup talk, and that was all single guy pickup lines. You should do it. There's literally podcasts that are full on episode podcasts of what men can say to women in the bar to pick them up. And it's so I was like, all right, well, screw you guys. I'll call it
everything.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll call it pickup truck talk. And then I was like, well, I had been in the business long enough to be smart enough to know that there's not enough trucks in the press fleets. They're just not. And so I was like, I better do SUVs as well. So we did. That's where the Plus SUV gets. And I thought the Plus SUV was pretty obvious until people started calling it and SUV. And I was like, it's a plus sign. So that's how that kind of came out. And then I was, I'd done some podcasts with Jill. Jill was my early person helping out that stuff. And so Jill and I did a bunch of podcasts. And I had the website going. And I started, I was traveling with Roman over at TFL. And nothing against Roman. He's trailblazer, done an amazing business. It's crazy the amount of business he's created for himself. And we were just traveling, and I was watching him do video, and I was like, well, I'm at the same events he's doing. I'm right there. Why not just start a new video? It was funny. I was threw my GoPro up on the stuff, started just doing some video, and those early videos were actually great for me because I would go home and I'd take 2 monitors and I'd play the video on one monitor and write my freelance story on my other monitor, or, the other computer. And I was like, oh yeah, I said that. Oh yeah, that's happened. Right? Because I would drink a little bit at these events and I would not remember all the details. But if I had it on camera, I knew what's going on. And so then I started to, I had like the summer before, it was like, COVID was 2020. So like 2018, I had my own business and I was staying home to have my kids. My kids were off at school now. And I call it my fat man of treadmill days because I'm still fat, but treadmills, whatever. I would basically take my iPad downstairs to our basement treadmill and I would watch how-to YouTube videos for for a full hour. I'd walk for the entire hour. And until I got to the point where I could basically regurgitate the entire video without hitting play. I could tell by the thumbnail and title and description what they're going to talk about. That's how invested I got in the platform. Because I'm a big believer in whatever platform you get involved in, you have to embrace that platform. You have to just go full in. Yeah. And then I started making a bunch of videos and just started doing videos and videos and videos. And then, frankly, COVID happened, and COVID was amazing because during COVID, what could you do? You could go camping, you could do outside activities. And what do you need to get you to the campground? What do you need to do stuff? You need a truck or SUV. And people just ate up the content like crazy. So that's kind of how it all worked out. I kind of combined. It's kind of nice because I have the sales experience, right, from all selling all variety of printers and sunglasses and all whatever it is. I can sell it. And I took that personality and I combined it with my journalism background. And then I added the video aspect of it. And it turned out I'm not amazing on video. I still mumble too much and I don't enunciate my words as well as people want to be. And I don't slow down for everybody that wants to do this stuff. And so I just I went for it. And I find that I always have distractors here and there, people detractors want to, whatever. But frankly, I just kind of went, it kind of turned into something. And I created the studio. Somebody commented, they want to know about the Rocky Balboa picture behind me. I created the studio behind me. And so what people understand is like the rest of the studio is all white walls. Like I did paint last year. I actually painted, put it button whole desk, whatever. But because I realized that the camera only catches this much, right? So you don't need this entire room. And I went. The Rocky Balboa is from the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a really great quote about how life can beat you down, and you got to get up and whatever beats you down. That's a great reminder. I have a thing over here about attitude my dad gave me, and I reference that all the time. Where doesn't matter what happens in life. It's all about the attitude and how you respond to it. Whatever happens, you got to keep a positive attitude. So those reminders help me when I'm reading your comments and trying to keep my sanity. But yeah, I just kind of combine those 10 things, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't afraid to do video. Live streams are hard. So people ask me, like, why do you drink on live streams? Well, it kind of happened on accident. The first live stream I did was me by myself for 5 minutes by myself or whatever. Nobody was on, and I was nervous as hell because live is a whole different thing. Like,
It is.
Yep.
you guys are experiencing this now. Recorded video, you put it out there, people criticize whatever, if that's fine, whatever. But live, they're just like, you're live to the world. Like, anybody can hop on right now and tell you you're awesome or you're terrible, right? It's a whole scary thing. So I would have a drink to calm me down and to slow me down because I speak fast. And so if I have a nice drink, I kind of calm down a little bit. And then it turned into this thing where people were like, it's party time, it's in, let's have a drink. And I was like, okay, I kind of created. So I'm having water tonight. So I as Ben knows, I am attempting to lose some weight. I have a variety of health issues that sometimes require me to drink because my inflammation catches me in a bad day or whatever. But I am trying to make a change there, but it's difficult. So yeah, that's kind of how that live stream turned out. And then the channel, like I said, the channel took off, and then when the channel just blew up on me, just everything, website and everything took off. So I hired Jill immediately because I needed her, and I still need her to this day, which is disappointing. I have to say that out loud, and she's going to remember that and write that down. But that's just kind of everything turned out that way. So it's been 10 years, 12 years.
Like,
oh yeah. So Dick Header is I think I'm saying that right. He's always in Asia. I don't know. The guy must live over there or something. He's always going from Asia. He's a fun guy. So yeah, I mean, and I love the fact that, like, I get to create a community. Like, I love. So one of the things as a journalist is that a lot of people can hide behind a byline. You can write something and then you don't, people are like, never read the comments, never do this, whatever. I think it's such bull. Like, like you guys, for me, you guys are my customer. That's how I view it. Like, if you're unhappy with something I'm doing, well, then I need to make a change. Now, change my viewpoint? No, but is my audio that bad? Well, okay, so I brought my mic over here in front of my face, right? So I mean, I do things based on feedback, reading comments and things, because, and I also have learned, especially in the forum and places where you're trying to go into the audience, is that you ask really good questions. Like, I'm always impressed with viewer questions, and some people I'm like, holy cow! Like, your charts and things, like, I would never even think about that to that degree. But there are people that you're not alone. I mean, I get emails all the time, and it's discussing minute features of things, and I love that stuff. I love talking about, like, the spare tire. I mean, that's crazy. Back in 21, I bought a Ford F50, and they didn't coat the under the pumpkin, I call it, or the rear axle, right?
Yeah.
And my uncle was telling me, he says, my wife's uncle, whatever, he's telling me, he says, you do this thing, car and driver picks it up, like Motor Trend picks it up. I mean, everybody's doing stuff, and it blows up, right? The story. And he goes, you just made like 100,000 men go outside and bend down, look underneath the rear axle. Is mine coated? What should I do with mine? I'm like, yep. I love asking those questions and saying, for $65,000, you think they could put a little paint on the rear axle? I mean, I don't know. It seems reasonable to me, but I love that interaction with the fans, and most of them, let's be honest. But I love the interaction. I love growing the community. I love you guys. I love the questions you guys have. I mean, I think that ultimately the YouTube channel and my work is better because of the viewers.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I definitely see with you. I don't know if it happens with TFL. I've heard some stories where people have approached them with things and they've kind of just been, no, we're not interested. And there's been maybe not the best interactions there. So I've never reached out to them. So I know nothing about that. But that's never been my experience with you, and especially with your forum. In fact, the fact that you started your own forum just to have a conversation, I think that's pretty incredible. And the people there have all been great. It's been good. So
yeah, and you don't see the behind the scenes, but I curate the hell out of that forum. like if you're a dick, you're gone. Like, I'm not gonna mess with you. And that's the thing that I think that. So I used to work for pickuptrucks.com, which is a cars.com affiliate kind of site. And Mark Williams and I, long history of that guy, great guy. But he used to drive me nuts because he wouldn't curate his comments. And I'm like, he just would get out of control. He never could, do anything with the comments. I'm like, no. You got to curate the comments. And I remember one night, so historically I read comments in the morning because I'm pretty tired and I'm not really knowing what you're going to say. And I don't take offense to it. Right. I used to read comments at night. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I'm thinking about that. I'm being a little whiskey with me, whatever. And this one guy I was arguing with, like, we were like 15 comments deep. Like, it was going crazy back and forth. And I was like, you know what, buddy? This is my channel. Goodbye. Delete. Yep. And I banned him and deleted all of it. I was like, and so, I mean, you got to be careful about that. You don't want every comment to be rosy because that creates this false sense of that kind of stuff. Yep. But I definitely have gotten to the point where I've gotten more mature in how I run the channel, and like, you're gone. I'm not interested in debating stuff with you, and especially like, all right, great. Look, I remember if you remember I don't know the thing, but I grew up in Detroit, north of Detroit, and so Eminem in that time period was when I was. Yep. Eminem and I are probably the same age, and so there's a part like in
his hair got darker.
Yeah. He's a weird dude. He really is. But I mean, there's a part in 9 Mile movie. I lost my train of thought here, but there's a part where he's like, you just kind of go out there and do your thing, and whether people like you or not, you put it out there. And so I think that is the ultimate thing is like when I'm on YouTube, I'm a public figure. And I'm going to be attacked. I mean, I know what I remember. The last rap battle, he basically, Eminem says all this stuff about him. And he goes, what do you got? And so great. I mumble. I don't enunciate. Toyota is not 3 syllables for me. It's 2. I'm fat. I drink too much. I got rosy cheeks. What else do you got? Right? I mean, that's kind of the attitude I have anymore. It's like, bring it. What else? Yeah. What else do you got? Oh, great. Timmy's going to talk about his rapping career again. No, like I said.
And I think you and I talked about comments before too. And like, I'll leave up any comment if somebody just, somebody said like, I'm not like this effing truck sucks or something like that. I'm like, you know what? That's not a helpful comment. And I'll leave that out of my comments because I don't really want that in my feed. But if somebody said, I don't like that truck is awful, here's why, and they give a really, an explanation, I'm going to leave that. Like, that's totally fine. If you have an actual thought, that I don't have a problem with that. Like you get your opinion, that's totally fine. But just to swear, be mean to somebody for no reason, like there's enough of that in the world. I don't need it in my comments. And so I'll take that out. But I don't have that many comments yet. Maybe someday that'll matter a little bit more. So we'll
wait
see.
till you get to 5,000. Wait to get 10,000. Get 100,000. It's like, oh my gosh, and it's and the expectation changes the more I'll never forget this. Somebody like attacked me once and said that I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't know if subscribers like somebody else does. And I'm like, subscribers are just a vanity number. Like I would love if YouTube would just hide all the subscriber count. Subscriber count does not matter at all. You know how much money I make off subscriber count? 0. Right. Nothing. The subscriber count does nothing. It's ridiculous. But in today's society, we're gonna judge people based on followers and that kind of stuff. It creates a whole thing. And I'm like, I've been doing this job for years and years before I started YouTube. Like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Most times. Sometimes.
Brian, do you have any questions?
I mean, you kind of answered them a little bit, just as far as like, how long you've been doing this, what got you started. I am kind of curious of, like of the trucks that you've looked at and you've owned over the lifespan. What was your first truck?
So
like your very first truck.
Oh, my very first truck I had like 1996 Chevy S10, extended cab, black, little lift on it. I drove the hell out of that thing. I freaking loved that. And then I went to college, and I was no, it was 1996, somewhere in that range. Anyways, that truck for years, and maybe it was 99. And I went to college, and I was broke, so I had to like sell it to the dealer and be done with it because I couldn't afford it anymore. And then I went for a year without having a vehicle, and then we had a hand-me-down car. I was a college student, broke, whatever. And then I got out of college, and we decided that we needed a new vehicle, and the choices were a minivan or a truck. It wasn't a hard decision at all. It was a pretty easy decision. So so this is how I think about things, because I'm just a business focused guy. I was running Toyota or Tundra headquarters at the time, and so I was like, well, I should buy a Tundra Because in my view, if I'm running a fan enthusiast site, I should own the vehicle I'm actually covering.
Yeah.
And so we ended up buying a Tundra and bought a 2013 Tundra, and we had that for several years. And then years we moved to Nebraska from Denver, and I sat outside for like 6 months, something like that. Because the thing is, like, people always want to know like how many miles you have in these trucks. Man, if I put 10,000 miles in a new truck, I'm oh my gosh, I'm excited. That's amazing. Well, think about it. I work from home.
Yeah.
I get vehicles all the time. The golf course is a mile away. Not even that. Walmart's 2 miles away. Kid school is a quarter mile away. Like, I mean, I don't have I drive a 62 C10 when I don't have a press vehicle, and guess what? It does the same job just fine, right? Because I don't have a lifestyle where I'm driving millions of miles. The other thing too is I'm gonna run a business. Like, I have to be here. Like, people like talk about being on the road a lot. I make a lot of money right here. I don't make a lot of money on the road. I make a lot of money right here. And so then what happened, like I said, with COVID blew up. I remember what the year was just like, the numbers was amazing, right? And so like I went from like $1,000 to $10,000 a month, like overnight. And then that 10,000 became like 15,000. I was like, holy cow. Like it was crazy. So I hired a tax accountant in town because my business got complicated enough. I can't, I'm not a good numbers guy. And I went to her and she says, look at the number. She goes, we're going to owe like $35,000 or something like that, 40,000. I was like, oh my gosh, what can I do? And she goes, talk about a little bit. She goes, if you bought a truck for your channel, you could write off as much as you want, because they had changed the sections 179 a couple years before. So tax code 179 means you can write off, right now it does, you can write off as much of or as little as you want to. You can decide. You don't have to do a 5-year depreciation chart anymore. You just write off as much as you want. So it was one of those really weird things where like, the bank and credit score had enough to buy a truck. Wife was like, go buy a truck. The tax accountant was like, go buy a truck. And then I couldn't find a truck. Like, when does that ever happen in your life? You have yeses from everybody and you can't buy the freaking truck, right? So then the F-150 was the newest truck that year. And so YouTube's a business, so you think of these things a little differently. And I'm a journalist too, so it's a combination of things where it's like, well, I want to buy the newest truck out there and then do my journalism to that truck, and speaking of things. So I finally ended up getting a 21 F-150 XLT Power Boost, which was probably just an amazing configuration. I still talk about that truck. I still bring it up, and it was great to do. And then I bought the Tundra of the year. No, yeah, the Tundra of the year after, because the 22 was the newest vehicle. So you always buy 21, 22 model, whatever. And then this last year I bought a Silverado because I've wanted to try the Duramax diesel powertrain forever. I've loved it driving press events. I've loved press ones ahead. And so I bought that. And then this year I'm buying the Ram 1500 Bighorn, which is insanely priced. But one of the things that I love about that now is that I could speak from a place of authority before, but now I really can speak from place of authority because I've owned them all, right? And so when somebody emails me and like, hey, I have a problem, my 10-speed transmission Ford, which I've heard a lot, video coming. I'm like, I never had a problem with that, or I had this issue, or had that issue, whatever, and I speak from a place of authority. But the problem, the thing I run into all the time is people always want to know, like, what's my favorite truck, or what's the best truck in the market? Well, ask me tomorrow, because things change overnight,
Yep.
And the thing is, like, the problem. My job is that I don't buy used. I don't shop used. I don't have no idea what you guys are buying for used vehicles, and I can't. It's like I can tell you what I'm about. And my buying reasons are dumb. My buying reasons are what's the newest truck out there. If I bought the truck I wanted, it'd be some like 1957 Power Wagon with the Legacy Motors does over in Utah that has like the extended cab with a leather inside, the Cummins diesel. I mean, I'd buy something stupid because for my needs, I just want a cool ass truck, right? But for the business needs and for being a journalist, I need to buy something that's totally brand new as best I can. And I need one of the things that I've learned with YouTube as well is I really like my work. I really like what I'm doing, and I really like the way I cover things. And I think I do a better job than anybody. I would say this: I think I do a better job covering a new vehicle than anybody else in the platform on YouTube at all. Because look at my Silverado stuff. I did 40 videos on that. The Ford F-50 was 40 videos. The Tundra was 40 videos. I did a video on the freaking visor in the Tundra, right? I mean, it's like I've done dumb videos, but I've also done a lot of towing videos, and I've done ownership vehicle videos, and I've done, I've done the at night and frozen Tundra videos. I do all that stuff because I love to live with the vehicles. I love that kind of aspect of it. So I'd put my work against anybody else on the platform as far as ownership goes. And I'm so excited for the Ram. I think we shared on the forum. I mean, there's like 16 or 17 video ideas already.
Yeah.
The Fight and Fire, Luke and I have been talking to tons of video ideas. You guys are helping me. That's the thing with the forum's really cool is you guys are giving me feedback on some things I'm thinking about. We're discussing. I have a video coming up with the chief engine engineer, whatever the guy's title is, for the Ram, and I put all the questions on the forum, and you guys could read through what I'm thinking, and you could add comments to it. I love that feedback. I love the interaction, but that's what I can't wait to sit down this fall or this Christmas and say, okay, I've owned all 4 major full-size trucks in the past 3 years. They haven't really changed that much in 3 years. Here's what I think. And I don't know what I think at this moment, which is exciting for me because I can't wait for that moment to come to do that video, because I think that video is going to be amazing. Because awesome. It's like I've owned them, I bought them, I paid taxes on them. I could do. I think it's awesome, and there's so many things I talk about. And I love the feedback. Like this guy's Battleborn saying, "I bought my 22 Power Boost with tons of info provided by Tim's reviews." Great, because my goal is to make you an informed consumer, and if I do that, I've done my job. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely. I love that stuff, and I think, like I said, when I do that video, it's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited to get that. I'm so excited by Ram. I've always wanted a Ram. I love the styling, and so I wanted to live with one, and I want to figure out that freaking 12-inch or 14-inch Uconnect 5 system, whatever. We get these things for a week, and I have not figured the damn system out. Like, it's so in depth and complicated and nerdy. I need myself and my wife need to sit in that truck for like 2 hours just pushing all the buttons, because I think it's really, really cool once you learn how it freaking works.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the big thing you hear from everybody. Like, the tech's just making it hard. The Tesla with just, so many vehicles are just going to that screen. It's like, you don't need everything that screen. It's not always best. I mean, it does work, and it's probably cheaper to manufacture, but is it always best for the consumer? I don't know. I have 2 other things. So I want to throw this up because Mark asked, why not wait for the Ranger? You're going to be driving that in a couple of weeks. And I think this goes back to analysis paralysis, right? Like, it does have a little bit higher payload according to the website right now. Who knows what it'll actually be when it comes out? That vehicle is supposed to be released in October. Like, it could be 2027 by the time that truck is out. So I don't know. Like, that's what's hard. If you wait and wait and wait, you're always going to be waiting for the next best thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a great truck, though. I mean, it looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah, if you wait, always something else comes out. And payload, that's one of my frustrations with the business, is that payloads aren't published, and they should be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, automakers know if you add a sunroof, it's going to drop your payload by 50 pounds, like something, whatever the number is going to be. They know that stuff. There's a chart. I know there's a chart somewhere with that stuff. And why is that not public? Why, when you go to build and price a Tacoma and you add that feature, doesn't it pop up say, you add this feature, you drop payload by 75 pounds, right? That'd be fine. But people wouldn't mind that. They'd be like, oh, okay, so I get done. Like, it was funny because people were bitching to me, like, the tungsten trim, the Ram 1500 tungsten, the highest trim level. Somebody's like, your payload number's wrong. So it's the door sticker. Like, literally, it's legal documentation on the door says this payload. Well, it's 2,300 pounds. No. That's the press release that states the regular cab with no options, that has nothing to it, that's going to have that with But payload is always one of those things people don't realize. Like, this guy's saying 1,700 pounds. Well, 1,700 pounds, that it could be the one unicorn. Like, it's so funny. Like, these payload numbers, like, it's this one truck, right? And so I remember years ago, Ram Heavy Duty came out, and they're going to tow like 37,000 pounds. Well, that was one truck. It was regular cab, long bed, with the upgraded axles, with the upgraded and the rest of the trucks all tow 20,000 pounds. But advertising was, hey, guess what we're going to tow? And it's like, well, yeah, that happens.
Yep. Last question or topic for the night.
Sure.
And that's so my dad passed in 2020. He was a diehard Ford guy and the reason was early in his life, and this is, I think, happened to many people. He owned a Chevy, it broke down, he never went back. Ford only for him. So he was Ford Ranger and Ford F-150. Those were his trucks, and my mom has owned like a Honda and a Hyundai for the SUV, but he was a Ford guy. And I've always, like, my first vehicle was a Ford Ranger, 2-wheel drive. It was my dad's truck. I bought it from him, and we owned that Ford Ranger later on. So those are my only trucks are Fords. But my question is, like, I see so many people who are so fierce about brands, and I'm just curious, like, what's your take on that? Like, do you have a favorite brand? Obviously, as a journalist, you have to maintain a little bit of, like, I'm open to anything, but for me, it's like, find the best thing for you and don't be caught up on what the badge says, because sometimes it's a bad year. Sometimes it's, whatever, like, look at everything. And that's what I tried to do with this purchase. And hopefully that'll work out for me, but I'm just curious what your point of view is on
I
that.
I've bought different brands. It's funny. I have images on the wall. That's a $1 Million Mile Tundra that I wrote, that I broke the national story for, which is a cool moment for me as a journalist. So people, I don't. Let me say this: I don't have a brand. GM is probably the one you criticize me for being brand loyal, because I was born. I'm a GM brat. We moved different plants. I mean, that's just what I grew up with. Although my dad got laid off and he was like, "Screw GM," he shopped BMWs and Mercedes and stuff.
Sure.
And I would. So I don't, but I see it all the time. But I see less of it. I think the generation coming up, and I'm going to guess I have a little more gray hair than you do. I think that generation is not as brand loyal as their fathers used to be. And I remember running the Tundra site and talking to a Ram rep who was very animated, and him and I had an animated conversation, because I don't tend to back down from conversations. And he was like, "Why does anybody buy a Tundra anyways? They're crap trucks." And I was like, "Because most Tundra owners are pissed off OEM buyers. They've been screwed over by Chevy. They've been screwed over by Dodge or Ram. They've been screwed over by Ford. They said, screw it all. I'm going with the most reliable truck I find." And Toyota is known as being a more reliable truck. And so I find that happens a lot in the comments, where, like, I'll see somebody who's been a Chevy guy for 60 years and want the new Chevy, kind of deal. But and my grandfather's a Ford guy as well. He always buys Fords, But I think the next generation is going, they don't want their dad's truck. They want their own truck. And I think that the brand bias is weeding out eventually. I think people are opening their eyes a little more, and the thing is, I tell people, like, it goes back to Tacoma with the breaking on the trail with TFL. Every truck can fail.
Yep.
Do you know how many Lemon Law stories, and I've heard from people about a Tundra, Lemon Law Tundra, the one that should never break, should go 1 million miles. You get a bad one. It just happens, right? And when I do reliability reports for, like, model years, I always group things in volume, right? So I think it's unfair, from my standpoint, it's unfair to compare the reliability of a Ford versus the Tundra, because they build a lot more Fords, right? So statistically, you're going to have a certain percentage. Say, you want the lowest percentage possible. Let's say 5%, 5 to 10%. There's just going to be something happened, just a bad combination of parts or something. They finally got it fixed, but it had to be in the shop so many times because whatever. You're gonna have fails. I mean, it's what's gonna happen. Look at me. I put out, I think 1,500 videos. I've had dogs. I've had absolute dogs don't get anything. I have a video right now. I got 500 views. I mean, you think with 100,000 subscribers, you can't have that. No, I do. I have dogs all the time. Things thumbnail was wrong or title was wrong or whatever was wrong. I mean, it's just it happens. And so I love trucks. I think that's the thing. My passion is trucks, and our trucks are so good these days. And when I look at them, I see a lot of differences and a lot of pros and cons.
Yep.
And so it's so hard for me to be brand biased, or people always ask me what the best truck on the market is. I'm like, for what? For what are you doing? What's your need? What you got to give me, stuff. And I've had the cousins of my wife stop by. My family's not from here. My wife's family is, and they want to know, like, they want to ask me a question about a truck, and I'm like, okay, you got 25 minutes. I'm like, no, I just want to know which one I should buy. I'm like, no, you got 25 minutes, because it's all, I've done this for years. You got to give me more details. Are you doing half ton? You doing heavy duty? You doing diesel? What do you feel about gas? You like features, it's like, so you go, if you like features, Ford is your friend, and Ford is
Right.
customization. I mean, you want to build a truck just for you with cool features, Ford's it. You want to build the most stylish looking truck that I think looks the coolest looking interiors, Ram's it, right? You want the most reliable truck in the market, Toyota's it, right? You want the good half-ton powertrains. You want some what I like is cool styling of the Chevy. You want really good luxury, the GMC Sierra Denali. It's a damn good. It's full luxury, right? So I mean, and you want defunct, go get Nissan Titan. That thing's dead. So like it's just it's what. How do you look at it? Like what do you need, and what are you really doing with that? So it's like that's the question that come down to consumers, and I think trucks. I mean, go through spans of being good and bad, right? The third generation Tacoma. It's funny. I drove that in Hawaii and I think in Oregon or someplace, and I thought it was great. And then my friend Dan Edmonds, who actually now works for Car and Driver as technical editor, he is like 6'5". He says to me, he goes, "Don't you like driving like it's like a bathtub?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Don't you hit your head and say it was a bathtub?" I said, "What?" And then my golf buddy says he bought one. He goes, "Man, this thing's a dog, doesn't go anywhere." I'm like, really? So then I got one as a press loan. I smacked my head, didn't like the seat position, I was underpowered as hell.
Right.
I'm like, son of a. But what happened was I had more experience in the vehicle and things had changed, right? So like the truck you're buying today the Tacoma is going to be much quicker than the Tacoma prior generation.
Right.
That's the power of turbos, right? So turbos we had this point in time where trucks have gone from natural aspirated to turbos. It's a 9-day difference. And if you haven't experienced turbo yet, you don't know what you're talking about because it is crazy how the difference is. And so, we talk about turbo lag now as a thing versus we never talked about it before. It never was a thing. And you talk about reliability with turbos because that's always somebody's talking. They want to know their 1970 Chevy Vega died because they put a turbo in it and turbos are awful.
Right.
So no, I think they're all so unique. And the thing that I currently have a Mercedes-Benz outside, a CLA A250 AMG car, right? And I'm doing it because my friend he wants to grow a car. He wants to grow his YouTube channel. And I thought I'm going to grow one. My personal channel will be Tim Talks Cars, whatever. And I'm driving this thing around, and I'm thinking to myself, like, it's so crazy when you look at cars. To me, a car is so simple, and a truck is so complex.
Yeah.
Because you have different axle ratios, different engine types, different cab configurations, different packages, different cameras you can add, different things like that. A car, you want blue, you want white, you want red, you want to tune it.
Which trim, right? And then which trim? Like trims, and then what color you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much there, but trucks are so infinitely more complex and more interesting to me than they are anything else. That's kind of why I love the business. And I've just, covering it for so long, I have such a wealth of information that I could talk about forever. That's why I'm always like, okay, end live stream. I talked for.
No, I appreciate you coming on today. It was a ton of fun.
No, I just teased you because I can go. I mean, I can go for hours, and that's just like nobody needs that. Like it's just no.
No, but I do. I super appreciate you coming on today. Maybe we can have you back in 2 weeks when you convince me to buy a Ranger. But we'll see.
Your wife's gonna be like, step away from the computer. Turn YouTube
for
off.
you until you've taken delivery of your Tacoma. That's probably how to go. But yeah, I super appreciate it. Thank you so much for everybody for joining today. I don't know if anybody else wants to say a couple of things before we end the live stream, but I'll let Brian. Do you want to say anything? We'll go to Tim and then. We'll go
no, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you and hearing your story. I loved it. I hope to see you some more on the forums because I'm Ben's been on there for a few months now. I just joined recently because he finally told me about it.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you don't know the forum, it's all trucks. Like I'm so sick of going to forum and it's only Tundras or it's only Fords or it's only Rams or whatever. Like and then the only hear is negative stuff about those vehicles. Like this, let's do all of them. So it's one forum doing all of them, and I'm a little biased on the forum because for many reasons, but also that YouTube, you can get lost in the comments and I don't know people's names as well. On the forum, you can post your rig. You can post pictures of what you're doing that day. And it makes that connection that much better.
Yeah. And thanks for creating that too. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. And again, I'm BenInBeta. If you thought this content was interesting, you want to follow what happens. Do I end up in a Ranger? Do I end up in a Tacoma? And what does that build look like? I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. But if you didn't find it interesting, hopefully the conversation was good. Anyway, what else we talked about? But I appreciate everybody watching. Remember to live your life in beta, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good night, everybody.